to another review. I'm Planting42, Warren, and with me this week is Chindocta as usual.
How's it going, guys?
I'm doing great tonight. I think we played a pretty interesting game this week.
Yeah.
This week we played Unexplored Unlocked Edition. The publisher was Digerati. It was developed by Ludo Motion, released on February 22nd, 2019, to the US market at least, at a price of $14.99. Genre-wise, this is quite the mishmash. It's a roguelite with elements of roleplay, and it is definitely a dungeon crawl.
Most certainly.
TA time estimate, or time estimate in general, I wish I could tell you. There are no completions of this game yet, and even looking at the achievements on live, about half of them have yet to be unlocked by anybody.
Yeah, very low player
So
count. 24 people have played the game on TA, and even then, the most unlocked achievements at like 12. So you can spread out pretty easily and miss achievements because it's a fairly typical roguelite list.
And from that, it's a difficult list, but we'll get into that in a minute. Plot-wise, unfortunately, I couldn't really find much of an explanation for what you're doing, at least in the main game itself. There's like a little scroll, sort of, that's kind of explains that you're setting out for an adventure every time you start. And it's kind of interesting how, like, you have a generational setting going where, like, if you fail one run or, you finish one run, you make another one, you're now such and such character, the fourth or the fifth, keeping the line going. But
yeah, but that has, other than the name, it bears no effect on the gameplay.
Exactly. So, the achievements in Unexplored Unlocked Edition. There's 30 of them.
There is. And they're split into what you could sort of consider the main or typical roguelite mode, where you start and you go through and try to complete the dungeon. And then there's 3 other sort of themed modes. There's a mithril run, which I'll say I didn't do any of the themed runs. I just kept trying to do the main run and get sort of as much done there as possible. But there's the mithril run, Ripley run, and dark ritual. So there are other ways of playing the game, which I assume have a variated from the standard.
A little bit, yeah. There's 3 different modes. Basically, the mithril run was kind of a more linear variant. You just kind of collect your treasure and leave at the other side. You get your goodies. The Ripley run is like an endless dungeon dive, where the whole point is just to get as many kills as possible with an attached leaderboard. And Dark Ritual is kind of like an adventure mode. There's actually a clock that appears on screen to kind of give you an element of time, so you know that you have like a pressing objective ahead of you, which unfortunately you're not told. There's no indicators for where you go, sort of like the regular game. It's literally just a find your way, explore your way, but know that there's something you're supposed to be doing while you're doing this.
Yeah, the achievements are sort of they're fairly standard. It's killing a skeleton. I assume that's what that one is. Killing a dragon, collecting some things, opening a door or a chest by picking the lock. But getting to those points where you can do those things is quite difficult. Like, you won't really experience those early on in the first, say, 5 floors, really. Most of the things that you will need to do, you won't be able to do till much later on in the run, which is why I only end up with 1 achievement.
Yeah, I think we both ended up with the same one for diving. Was it 7 floors?
Oh, no, I didn't get that one. I got... Oh, yeah, sorry, discovered 5 levels, yeah.
Oh, 5 levels, okay. Honestly, if you just explore, that one's probably the easiest one to find, especially if you are willing to take the drops through the holes in the floor.
Yeah, which I didn't realize you could do until a more recent run. Sort of just been wandering around and like, okay, guess I'll go back up. And that's the thing, is that there's multiple exits on some levels, so you may go down a certain way and realize it was a boss area and it's a bit of a dead end, or you can't proceed because you may not have a key or a lock pick to try and open a door, so you have to go back the other way. So it's not that sort of standard roguelite where you just proceed to the next level and you'll be able to get to the next one and the next one. So it is a bit of that dungeon crawler really
And
showed.
you're pretty much rewarded also for like exploring and grabbing, opening all the barrels, looking at inside of everything because there's gold, there's the rations, the ways to heal yourself, random potions that you need to identify in some
Yeah,
form or fashion.
yeah, and
Um,
I did enjoy. I enjoyed the fact that it was sort of unknown, and you just said, "Okay, I'm in a good situation. Even if this is a bad potion, I'll be all right." Okay, it was a really bad potion. I'm not okay. I'm not okay.
yeah, I did that on my last run actually not too long ago, and I ended up with a blind potion, and then
Hmm.
things went downhill incredibly fast.
Yeah,
So yeah, basically, it's a top-down uh, gameplay wise. It's a top-down strafer shooter. Well,
yeah.
not really a shooter,
I mean,
really.
it's kind of the twin stick shooter style of movement and aiming, but you are typically using melee weapons. So your right trigger is to
True.
do either a lunge or maybe a sword swing, and you usually have a secondary weapon or a shield that you can use with the left trigger. That might be a dagger that you can throw or a shield that you can block with. What you and I found most effective was instead of lunging at the enemies, you just sort of hold your weapon out and wait, and they run into your weapon and take some damage. So um, the thing with combat is if you use your weapon, it has a cooldown time. So you might attack with it, and it's got a second to wait before you can attack again. And in that time, your secondary weapon will come to the forefront. So if you've got a sword and a dagger, they run into your sword, take some damage, your dagger comes out, they run into that. Typically they die. If they're not, they might be a bit stronger and you back off until your sword comes back, which usually isn't that long after the dagger hit.
Exactly. The other big thing I noticed is sometimes I come across rooms of like large groups of enemies. Like I found some bees, and I also found this gelatinous cube that when you attacked it, it just kept splitting over and over and over.
Yeah.
Use doorways to your advantage to condense the fight so that you don't have to attack everything all at once. And
Yeah.
in fact, there's even some levers you can use to shut doors if you want to try to, you know what, I don't need to go in here, I don't want to deal with these guys. But don't feel like you need to fight everybody because that's really not the objective of at least the main.
Yeah, especially considering you don't get any experience or anything for killing. Um, the only real benefit is if you kill someone who has weapons, they'll drop them and you can pick them up. So they may have a giant shield that you want. So if you kill them, it'll drop the shield. Yeah, your bees, your rats, your bats, they don't typically drop anything. So there's almost no purpose if you don't need to progress it in that direction. You don't have to kill them, as you said.
So I guess if you look at everything that's there, like when you start the game itself, there's several different difficulty selections, which I appreciate, and I played on the easiest level, which is still brutally difficult in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Um, which gives you more magic items, which may be good or bad because these things are just like unidentified. Who knows what they're going to do?
Hmm.
I've picked up cursed weapons that didn't do damage, and I couldn't drop. When I had to somehow find a way to break the curse, I died that
Yeah.
way. And then there's other options you can toggle, a couple modifiers. Like you can like toggle extra puzzles and rewards. I'm not sure what it does. I've tried playing with it on and with it off and didn't notice anything different. There's
Mhm.
also an extra bosses and rewards, which I would assume would add in more harder people to destroy, which I didn't try messing with because it's hard. You can also randomize the seed because it's just like a procedurally generated game to begin with. You can also use the seed from your previous run if you figured out where things were, or you just you had a good time with it. You want to give it another shot, or you can even type in your own seed for some reason. You've got luck, or someone said, "Hey, try this one."
Yeah.
You can.
So I'm sure there'll be if once there are some more people playing, there'll be achievement guides with seeds that work well for X achievement, and you'll be able to do that quickly. But at the moment, it's a bit of an unknown game, and it is difficult. Like that learning curve is quite steep, and you get punished very quickly for making mistakes. So it's hard to build up a good run because they tend to get cut quite short.
Agreed. So basically, as you do these runs, the real thing you're searching for, at least that I can tell, is the gold, because that's what's carrying over. That's the roguelike element of this.
Hmm.
None of this loot you get is worth anything other than for that particular run or for your benefit of making it through that run. But the gold you can use to improve yourself for successive runs. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's at least that going for it. So the more effort you put in, the easier it gets, and you can probably delve a little deeper each time.
Hmm. there were some items I picked up that said, if you return to the surface with these, it's worth 20 gold or whatever. I never bothered to try and go back up. Is there do you know if there's actually a method to go back up and exit sort of early, or is it just when you die you'll get those coins? I never paid attention enough to that.
Tell you the truth, I don't think I found any of those items that said they'd give me gold. So, but then again, maybe I did and I just didn't realize. That's why I have more. Okay. I'll have to pay more attention.
Yeah, that brings up actually quite an annoying thing for me was working that menu system. It was not great. So you can pause the game with B or start, and that brings up your sort of on your person inventory that you can do some stuff with. But if you want to see your entire inventory, you have to hit the right bumper, which is your backpack and whatever else. Moving stuff feels clunky. Equipping things feels not like it doesn't feel good. Trying to put the right things in the right hands. Inspecting to see what things do seems weird. It doesn't feel like it's been made for Xbox well. Like, I feel like this was a PC port that was designed for clicking, and you've just sort of got to figure it out with a controller that can't move as quickly.
As much as I agree with you, I did find one benefit to that. In that, if you're trying to, say, grab rations quickly in the middle of a fight, as soon as you moved your thumbstick to move your character, you popped right back out of that screen and you're right back into the game.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
In the same respect, forcing people to use D-pad instead of the thumbsticks to navigate the menus is weird. Because, naturally I open the menu, go to use left thumbstick to move, and, well, the screen closes and my character moved. Like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. So, trying to learn just how the UI works and what you need to do is definitely frustrating to get into the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably almost 4 hours into it now, and I'm just starting to kind of feel like I almost have an idea of what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm about the same point, probably.
It's definitely something that if you do like roguelites and you aren't upset with putting a good chunk of time into it, I can feel this game actually becoming something rewarding. However, you need to be able to put in that kind of effort, and you need to be able to persevere at it to be able to figure out what this game has got going for it. Yeah. I feel like they just don't really show you that up front well enough.
Yeah, definitely. It can feel a little bit banging head on wall for some of the time, but I too feel like I'm starting to get it, and I'm starting to figure out sort of the tricks, if that makes sense. Like, I'm figuring out things that work and things that don't work, and if certain items will show up, I say I don't really want those because I don't use that playstyle well, and just walk away. But exactly. I still feel like there's a whole section of the game that I'm yet to discover, and that I'm going to get to that wall again and have to persevere to get through it once more. But I enjoy it and I don't enjoy it at the same time. It is a weird game for me.
No, for me as well. Roguelites I have a hard time with them. I like to kind of play one thing through-ish, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So kind of like the letdown of failing is not something I enjoy. But in the same sense, these are easy, quick runs. Well, at least because I'm not so good at it. They're quick runs. Yeah. Oh, well. So, I mean, I guess when you look at it as a whole, Unexplored Unlocked Edition, it's not a bad game. It definitely has a lot going for it, especially for those that are into this type of genre. Although I feel for the average gamer, this is probably a little bit too much to bite off than what your normal gameplay would be.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone who's not a roguelite fan, for sure.
I guess that's pretty much our take then. Give it a shot if this is really your thing. Otherwise, maybe give it a peek when it comes on Game Pass or free to play or some other form like that. It's definitely something to.
I mean, the price for what it is, I think, is worth it. But if you're not a fan of this stuff, I'd wait for a sale for Unexplored Unlocked Edition. Awful name as well. That's.
Well, it's truth. It's not really explored because it's different every time.